Hello, Internet. Welcome to Monday evening here in Paris. Just wanted to talk about one thing, and that is the following. Sort of the fact that you can know something's good for you, you can know that something is important, and yet you still don't want to do it. Or it can still be frustrating or uncomfortable at different points. And for me, the sort of manifestation of this idea was today having to read a crazy amount of technical documentation, or at least what felt like a crazy amount of technical documentation around sort of these different APIs that incorporate elements of sort of the Open Baking Initiative in Europe, which is essentially my understanding of the Open Baking Initiative memorandum, whatever the thing is that all my classmates are talking about, or all my teammates are talking about, is sort of this this ordinance that makes sort of all banks follow a certain level of standards, so that look, giant bus could have gone bust, but at a certain level of sort of accessibility and standardization around giving sort of their clients and also potentially third-party developers access to user data. And I mean that, like, if I am a client of BNP Paribas, so BNP Paribas, or like Credit Agricole, as you might say in English, or whatever, Barclays in the UK, like I should be able to, as a user, access some of the digital information, provided that I sort of respect the guidelines of the API and authenticate through, I think it's called like OS2 authentication or something. Anyway, in any case, so this is all to say that, like, sort of the core of our app idea revolves around having access to financial data, and we thought sort of the Open Baking Initiative in Europe would sort of be an interesting way to get that, because there's sort of these third-party APIs which companies have developed, which would all sort of allow us to potentially access some of that data. And so today was the first day that we sort of like full on went on this project. As in last week we were working on a different project. And as sort of aspirational as we hope to be and work over the weekend, our team sort of didn't do that, so more or less starting from scratch today. And we divvied up the different work and the different tasks that needed to be done, and my role was to investigate the different API options and sort of the different third-party APIs or third-party integrations that we could use. So I was reading all this technical documentation all day. Oh man, my brain is so fried. And I would just sort of reflect, like, that in knowing that it's sort of a good skill to have, being able to read technical documentation, and I know that it's good for me in order to develop the skill and sort of just have the skill in any level. But there were just times where, like, my eyes would still glaze over. It would still be like, I would be like reading about gets and posts and all of these different sort of REST APIs, standards and stuff, and all these different actions you can do. And at certain points, like, my eyes would just sort of stop functioning in taking information. And I just have to, like, come back a couple minutes later and reread it. So that was really interesting, sort of as a meta experience, knowing it was good for me and then still succumbing to my own habits. And then just, I would sort of say, there's sort of these different interesting elements of breakthrough. Like, right near the end, I'd been reading, we sort of concluded that the business model of one of the third-party APIs doesn't really fit us. You need, in order to get access to sort of some important pieces, like keys and authentication mechanisms, and we needed to be a business with at least 4 million euros of revenue per year. And since, we started today, we technically don't have any euros of revenue, let alone 4 million. So we're not going to sort of be able to get the key pieces of the API or access to the API that we needed. So then we started investigating a second one. and it's very unclear. Like, you can have access to what's called a sandbox. It means you can like sort of play in the browser with the different elements, some elements of the API, but like it's incredibly unclear of whether or not we'd have to pay in order to get access to the sort of authentication keys that we need in order to put it into production. Anyway, this is just to say it was a very, very long day, and near the tail end, I finally got to the place of just unlocking my door, or the door to the apartment. I finally got to a place where I was like able to read and understand sort of how the different pieces of the API would work. Still don't really know how to get the authentication key that we need in order to be able to access the API, but actually got to the part of documentation that I found interesting and readable. So in summary, this video was supposed to be about sort of just the phenomenon of knowing something could be good for you, knowing it's an important skill to have, and sort of having some level of distance with that, or it's still being hard or uncomfortable. We sort of use the example of my experience today in reading technical documentation for different third-party platforms or third-party APIs for the Open Banking Initiative in Europe. Talked about how one third-party integration that we sort of looked at, the one third-party API, the business model doesn't work for us because we don't have any revenue and they needed 4 million euros. And then the sort of the last one that I'm continuing to look at, hopefully after this video, it seems like it's very promising at the time being, and particularly at the end of my day, I got to a place where like things are starting to click. So that was a really cool feeling. We would love to know if you have experience with third-party APIs. Maybe APIs by definition are third-party. However, you could create your own API, so therefore it seems like it wouldn't be a third-party API. Anyway, I don't know if that makes sense. What sort of are some of your experiences, pleasant, negative? We'd love to know. As per usual, we'd love to know what you think about this video, what we can do better, what we can do, to make it more interesting, stuff like that. And sort of just check in around the project in general. If there's things you like, we'd love to know that too. So I think that's about it. I'm going to go to the gym and then keep reading some technical documentation. So that's my Friday night. Oh, I'm very optimistic. That's my Monday night. Hope you have a good one, and we'll see you again soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.